available.
Let me do that.
Huh?
Just let me know.
To
Okay.
take his place.
I'm gonna probably
You've
start
seen her
at five.
before, in Comparative.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, she sat in on board members, meetings before, so she's gonna do the presentation. Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Bye. Hey, Ms. Brown.
Hello, darling.
No, that's not me.
Smith's son.
Hey, Ms. Rose. Hey, Superintendent.
Austin, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Got to get your mother hooked up there?
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron Michael just got me hooked up, so I know. How you been doing?
I've been doing good.
I see you with your KA sign across the tent.
Yes, ma'am. I wear it proudly.
Oh, well, I know, my husband used to be a pole bar.
I forgot he did.
Yeah, Montgomery County.
I'm gonna get into it now.
Okay, Donna.
We're waiting on Claire.
We're ready.
Those phones on mute.
Hello, Dr. Lisa Key.
Hello, I'm trying to see how I can see you. I'm not seeing, I saw you and then something I pushed has me. Everybody being quiet.
We're being nice.
Before we go live,
Uh-oh.
and when we get everybody here.
Claire, we're live. We started.
What?
We're already live just for testing.
Okay,
Okay.
well, but then I still need to ask my question. When we get everybody here, before this meeting gets started, can I offer a prayer?
If you like.
Please do. Before we get started, we'll wait till everybody, a minute or two before the hour.
Okay, go ahead. No problem. Check back forward.
Thank you, Clay.
Hello.
Oh, wait, don't do that, Lisa. Hello. Lisa was turning upside down there for a minute.
So we're waiting on, Jana,
Tell
maybe.
everybody,
I think we're waiting on Jana.
Hey, Jana, we're waiting for you to come on in the Zoom. That's okay, we'll see you in a minute.
There she is. Hi, Jana. Hi. I think we've got everybody here. I was gonna ask a little prayer before we got started today, if that was okay. So if we could bow. Almighty and gracious God, thank you for the opportunities before us this day. Accept our prayers as we set about doing the business of our children. Guide and guard our decisions that we may bring the best of us for the best to them. Protect and watch over our children that they may flower and grow during these difficult days. Help us, the leaders, to set your example of goodness and kindness. Thank you for all our gifts. Help us to use them wisely and work toward a better world. Amen. I think we have. I think it's here. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Can we get started?
Yes.
All right, I call this meeting to order. And because not all can see or hear, let's make sure that we can hear. I'm gonna call your name and just let us know that you're in attendance. Dr. Lisa Keith? Here. Dr. Brenda Doremus Coleman? Here. Mrs. Mary Briers? Mary Briers?
here. Do you hear me?
Yes. Janet Bailey?
Here.
Claudia Mitchell? Claudia?
You're muted, Claudia.
Claudia, can you hear? Erica Smith? Here. Okay, and we see Claudia. We have a quorum. And, can we get an approval of the agenda?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the revised agenda.
I second.
Again, I will call by name, for a yes or a no. Dr. Keith?
Yes.
Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Briers?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms.
They're not
Mitchell?
here. I'm having problems.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes. And, Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. So we have approval of the agenda. I have a couple of things I'd like to say to get us started off tonight. Last week, the statue in front of Lee High School was toppled from the Ann Street campus. Personally, I wish the manner that the statue was removed was under different circumstances. But regardless of how it fell, now that it is gone, it is my intention that it is never returned. I also hope that this body will join me in reviewing our system's school naming policies and will remove the name of Confederate leaders from our facilities. I am personally offended by these names and the intent behind them when they were named. It is long past time for these changes to happen. Both moves are something the majority in our community have requested for years. The toppling of the statue has presented a moment to right these wrongs. Neither task will be easy. I have asked our legal team to review the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act of 2017 to determine what fines or penalties MPS would be subject to. However, I believe we cannot let this law become an excuse for not acting. In just 1 week, more than 20,000 people have signed a petition encouraging us to take these steps. Countless others have emailed, texted, sent messages, and called. I'm confident that these petitioners will help us do what is necessary to overcome this and other barriers. That is why I'm asking this board to create a community committee to guide us in this process. Ultimately, what the school is named should not be up to us to decide in a vacuum. Our decisions will resonate long after some of us have left this board for other endeavors. We must hear, and more importantly, we must listen to our students, families, alumni, and community partners. Lastly, I want to remind this body that our job is not only to make sure our students can attend a school where they are not ashamed or embarrassed by the legacy it represents, but also to ensure that the institution's educational quality is worthy of the name we put on its door. Our schools have made great strides in recent months. If MPS is to continue this momentum, we must move forward together. Thank you, and I'll open the floor if anyone has something to say.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with you. I have been inundated with, letters, and that they have not just been blacks, it's been black, white, Hispanics, everybody concerned. And I think that the process is that our superintendent will have to get a waiver, before we can do anything. I don't know what the step is after the waiver. But if we are going to have a committee, I have a name I would like to submit.
We will get to those names this week. We will get to names this week.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would like to speak on behalf of those students and alumni, teachers at Lee High School. I think they should be a part of the committee. I have seen the letters too. I also taught at Robert E. Lee for 27 years. And I've talked to students about it, and many of them are upset. There's always two sides to a story, and in that committee, I do think I've heard, listened, cried, tears, ranted, and I do see there's a need for a compromise. I think on that committee, a large part of that committee should be the people that have been at Lee, are alumni of Lee, and know that school also think we need to hear their voice. Because the only thing I feel on this is the timing of this. It is, when you have people that have done something wrong, it's almost saying what they did was right. I'm not saying I'm not saying that I'm totally against it. I realize that it's a controversial subject. I've listened to enough voices that instead of fighting against it, I want to fight for compromise. Thank you.
I agree with you, Dr. Keith, I agree that we need to have alumni included absolutely in this, and there are lots of sides, but ultimately, I think we will all come to a correct decision.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If
I
not,
think it's time overdue.
if not, we will move on to,
I can't hear nothing.
Remind y'all, if you turn off, if you'll mute yourselves, if you're not talking, it will come across a lot better and you won't hear the echo.
It's good.
okay, so we're gonna move on to, operations. Mr. Anderson, I believe you're up.
Yes, ma'am, good evening. I'll be brief in my statements, and then I'd love to answer any questions you may have, concerning our last item on the spreadsheet there with the LED audit. We're kind of wrapping up some of those things, but I'll go down it briefly. Brubaker middle roof replacement, that's moving along quite well. Of course, with the weather we've had, that'll slow some of the roofing jobs down a little bit, but, they're moving along very quickly with that. The Peter Crump roof, that we approved last board meeting, the pre-con is gonna begin here within the next week or so. Seth Johnson is going through the pre-bid advertising right now. JD HVAC replacement, they're moving very quickly in that. We're getting ahead on those things and should have the first phase of it, which is that main part of the building, completed prior to the, start of school. That's your lunchroom, gymnasium, and the main area right there. And then the second phase of it will be what they call the 9th grade building in that. The district-wide camera upgrade project, we've completed phase 1, got approval for phase 2, which is a smaller portion of a certain type of camera. Those are in the process now, getting installed. And then the Cisco phone replacement, we're almost over the finish line on that. We're missing Impact and McIntyre, and that has more to do with the switches and the things that are involved in the wiring part of it, not necessarily the phone itself. So we're waiting on a couple of things to be in place to complete those areas. Intercom upgrades, those are working as we speak. They're getting all the materials in place to have that done. And what the new intercom upgrades will give us the option to be able to, from a district level, remote into the intercoms. And if we had an active shooter, say, in a school, we could remote in and guide whatever the police could also remote in and guide in with our permission on that. So it gives us some really good flexibility and some safety features that we've been lacking on that. Plus, you don't want an intercom to go down under a difficult situation, something adverse like that, or a weather situation. You want to be able to communicate on a broad basis. The BTW site package, that's before you tonight, gonna be before you for approval. That is the dirt work, basically, so we'll get to do a groundbreaking at some point, and everybody will get to have their shovel and hard hat on for that, and look pretty for the cameras. So that's going in tonight. Doing the early site package will get us somewhere between 60 to 90 days ahead of schedule. Then if
Arnold, bring me the phone. Bring me the phone.
then if it's gonna get us about it's gonna get us about 60 to 90 days ahead of schedule, as far as when the main building begins. We're about they're probably 75% through with the main package, or the plans, the drawings, and that'll, as soon as they're completed, I'll present that to the board, and then also, of course, to the BTW parents. We'll go out there and visit with them as well and kind of walk them through all together with that. But the early site package lets us get the dirt work ready. Again, we'll be 60 to 90 days ahead of schedule by doing the early site package, and that's what's before you tonight. And then the last piece there, the LED lighting audit project update. You know, back in the spring, we looked at some different, lighting groups. We had Alabama Power, LED Solutions come in and speak to us. I feel like this is one of the quicker areas that we can see a savings and a cost reduction as far as maintenance and repair, and then also, of course, our utilities bills. So what you have before you tonight is a quick spreadsheet and some details that each of those companies provided. I also have one that I'll have Leslie share with you. They got their information a little bit late to me on Friday to be able to get it out to you Thursday night, so I apologize for that, but I'll have Leslie share that extra company with you as well. And I just wanted to be able to give you the breakdown of what you see there. So you've got an upfront cost for each one of these, which that is if we just paid for it outright. And then you have a financed yearly cost, if we financed it, and with the math on there, you'll see it costs a little more to finance it. But again, that's not straight money out of your pocket. And then, of course, the warranty and service agreements that go along with it. Just a little bit about the first company that you see there, Dawkins Electric. That's our electrical services contract. What I gave you that is kind of a baseline. That is if we did the work. And of course, we can't finance that part of it. And then the warranty part of that is just the manufacturer's warranty. By going with one of the other companies, Alabama Power LED Solutions, and the one you'll receive with Energy Retrofit, if we choose to do that, go that path, it gives us a way to stretch it out if we finance it, but then it also gives us a 5 or 10 year warranty depending on which company we go with, which would cover all parts and labor, which is a major portion of our maintenance department when you're talking about electrical. 70 to 80% of our outsourcing of electrical in the past has been lights and switches. So that will be a huge reduction in our maintenance that we carry on with our one electrician in-house, and should save us a good bit of money on that part of it, as well as the energy reduction there too, as well as what we pay in utilities. So if you have any questions about that, I'd love to take those down. I know I talk very quickly, but I'd love to take anything down where I can take it back. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Bailey.
For companies, does it equal all out because we get more with Alabama Power as far as like the parts and labor and the warranty and the service work?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. I only caught part of it.
Okay, let's see if I can turn it up.
I got you now.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was turning down a bit. So there seems to be a big,
Excuse me, they are gonna have to talk a little louder, it's very difficult to hear. Can you speak a little louder?
yes, can you, yeah, I can talk louder. Okay, I'm on 100. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I was just, the question was, there was a big difference in the cost with the different companies. And so I was just wondering, because does that mean like with Alabama Power, it would include the, parts and labor and warranty and service and all of that, so that makes it more, or?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference?
There's a little bit of detail difference as far as, you know, what each group would do. I know Alabama Power was talking about it, doing like a quarterly walkthrough to make sure that all the lights were working, that sort of thing. There's some details in there that would make it be a little bit more, but, you know, in the end, I mean, it's a lot of, with an LED is, do you wanna drive a Chevy or a Ford, and then, or do you wanna step up to a Lexus? You know, I mean, do you wanna get Creed? Do you wanna get these different types of bulbs that cost a tremendous amount, or do you wanna keep it a baseline, which I know drawing table with any of these companies, and this is mainly for your information. I wanted you to see that we're doing our details, our homework on it, but I didn't wanna get into like different light bulbs, different switches, different controls. Every one of these is gonna provide controls where occupancy sensors, different things like that will maximize our energy savings, and we won't have to rely on a human effort to go flip a switch off or on, which we know that doesn't always happen. And then two, they're all gonna be, high efficiency LEDs. Some are gonna be a little bit more than others. You're gonna see, when you see the other details from the other company, they gave a good, better, best in their proposal of different types of materials, and their best, was a 15-year warranty as opposed to a 10-year warranty. The big thing for me is always, when I buy anything, is service after the sale, and that's what I've impressed upon all of these groups. But then also, Mr. Watts, I know he's not here tonight, but he's gonna help us make sure we get the best value for our dollar and make sure we can cover what we go after. But this is something that we definitely wanna move towards in the future. We're paying a tremendous amount to go out and replace ones and twos at different schools where we're only gonna put a few lights up here at a time. We need to do something massive if we're gonna try to really reduce our costs as far as energy savings, and then also our maintenance savings, not having to go back out there continuously and working on these things. But that's what you're seeing in some of the details there. And, I would say Alabama Power is a little new to the game when it comes to, these type of contracts, and so there may be some adjustments. They may have something that they wanna come back with, a separate proposal. I'm not sharing anybody's pricing with any other company, so they don't know I'm asking for their best, and I'm not trying to beat one over the other, so none of them know the pricing of what each has given us. They just given me their best offer to date, and now I can go back to the drawing board and really try to push once I get a dollar figure from Mr. Watts as we can move forward. And with a bond measure, I think it's something that would be a good proposal to move forward on, give us better lighting, save us some money in the operational cost and maintenance cost as well.
Okay, Ms. Anderson,
Yes, ma'am?
I think you were probably touching on it as you concluded those statements, but as I was looking and comparing, you did say that these were preliminary figures, but when we get the next breakdown, if we can have, some kind of comparative analysis so that we can see, for example, Alabama Power, said upfront, and they gave some cash prices, but then in the descriptor, it says 0 upfront capital outlay. So I'd like to be able to know what the upfront monies will look like, what the monthly subscriptions would look like. As Alabama Power laid it out in this, proposal, I'd like to know that for all the other offers.
Yes, ma'am, when Leslie
Wait,
gives you.
hold on.
Madam President,
We need to get Mr. Anderson to mic up because the public cannot hear him.
Madam President, I have the same concerns that, Dr. Coleman had.
Can y'all hear me better now?
One second.
Hear you, Chad, but I'm getting, and I think Mary's getting them too, I think we're getting messages that the public cannot hear you and they just wanted you to speak up.
How's this? Is this better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
The question I have is, once you get everything in and you get it compared with Mr. Watts looking at it and comparing prices and what you're getting for your money, you would come with a recommendation, would you not?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is just a kind of a synopsis of what's been coming in. When you get the new sheet from Leslie, it's gonna have that comparative analysis on there about what an upfront cost would be. and then also if we did the monthly subscription. I think this, and remember too, this is just a little snapshot of 3 schools, comparatively speaking. We're looking at doing something district-wide. We want to make sure that we get the most bang for our buck when we do this, and go for it. So you had that when we did LED Solutions, they did the full school scope of things, but for time management, I only had the other companies do 3, because it took LED Solutions a good while to audit all of the schools and get all of the numbers for those things. So that's why, 1, you have a small snapshot of this, and 2, you know, I'm gonna give you those updated figures of what everything, and it will give you that cost analysis of what it looks like over the long haul if we paid for it up front, or if we paid for it on a subscription basis, that extra amount of money. I mean, if you got, my opinion on it is, if you got the cash to do it, let's do it. If you don't, and you can see a cost benefit of putting these in as far as what you're gonna save in energy to help pay for those things, and you can kind of wash with some of that for the first few years and then start seeing your savings after that, we can go that route too. But this is just to kind of give you a comparative analysis of the 4 companies or the 4 groups that have come forward and are interested in trying to do something LED wise in the school system.
Madam President, Erica Smith. Chad, I had a couple of questions. One comment and a couple of questions. I talked to some other board members in other districts, so the savings are pretty astronomical. I'll say that. So I know that you and Watts, Dr. Moore will do make sure we get the right people in place and make sure we get the bang for our buck. Because from what I'm hearing, it makes a difference. And that's my comment. My first question is about BTW, and I'll try to make it quick. As far as, and you may have touched on it and I just didn't hear it, but the architectural plans and renderings of what BTW will look like, will that be something that the parents and teachers in the community will be able to look at? And you may have touched on it.
Yes, ma'am, I did just briefly. They're almost finished with the final plans. They're about 70% or so done with that. And we've been talking to BTW, working with the teachers and the administration over there to go over each of those areas. So they've had a good bit of input into this, but I want to make sure that I go through the right protocol and I share it with you guys first, the ones that have to approve the plans. And then once I share it with you guys, then I'm gonna share it with BTW. And then my next goal, I wanna have it posted on the website in a location where people can go on and look at those renderings from there, you know, and the different things that are involved with it. But you'll get a much more detailed overview when we come to, hopefully the next board meeting, they'll have all of those plans finished and for your approval and let you guys check it out. But the architects have done a great job working with BTW, and I think Dr. Starks will echo that. We've had several meetings for hours and hours with their constituents there to make sure we give them their vision of it with what's going on.
And I may not say, and I may not have heard this either, but it was the contract that we have, that's the contract for BTW.
It is the site package. It's the dirt work.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's the dirt work to get the dirt moved in the right position so that we can build there. The next thing that will come to you will be the actual building part.
Okay, and in that, and Jenna, this is something that I remember you saying, so I'm kind of, and Ms. Bryant, but do we know if there will be any, whoever the contractor is, if we are requiring them to have any PDE participation? And for the audience that's, maybe listening, that is our disadvantaged business enterprise, minority business people as subcontractors, and will we make that possibly a requirement?
Well, we've just followed what the state requires in advertisement. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I hope that we were looking at, Dr. Moore, I'm going to say that, and board members, and just something to think about.
Yes, Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? If not, thank you. And, Mr. Watts isn't there tonight, but Pamela Watkins is.
Good evening, Ms. President and Board. My name is Pamela Watkins. For those of you I've not met before, and I'm filling in for Mr. Watts in the presentation of the financials for the month of April. Montgomery Public Schools has completed 7 months as of the month of April, which represents 58% of our fiscal year. The general fund balance as of April 30th is approximately $36.3 million. Please note, as he stated in the past, that the general fund balance usually increases in January and February as a result of the collection of ad valorem taxes from the city and county governments. Our total year-to-date revenues for general fund totaled $143.4 million as of April, compared to $139.2 million as of April of 2019. The increase in state revenues, of course, is due to the 4% raise approved by state legislature, and so we will see that reflected each month of this fiscal year. Please note that there are timing differences, which I think that he's mentioned before, in the collection of local ad valorem taxes, so that impacts our local source revenues. Total expenditures for the month of April were $126.5 million compared to $131 million in April of 2019. Although we're paying more to employees because of the 4% salary increase, our expenditures have been lower compared to last year due to our adjustments in overall expenditures. As we continue to monitor the effects of COVID-19, we strongly feel that we will be able to maintain our 1-month fund balance, which we are doing right now. While we recognize that the amount of the 1% county sales tax, that revenue that we receive, and the gasoline tax will probably decrease, we have also adjusted our expenditures to offset that loss. We also have learned that we will receive a little over $12 million in the CARES Act, which is the federal stimulus funding, to help offset some of the expenditures related to the pandemic. We're projecting that the majority of those funds will be spent on our technology infrastructure and devices so that we're more prepared to deliver virtual instruction for our students. Let us be mindful too that about 80% of our personnel costs account for total expenditures. We're very appreciative to the superintendent and the board for working so closely together to make difficult decisions in adjusting some of our expenditures for fiscal year 19. So that's helped us. The system provided the system with an opportunity to obtain our 1-month fund balance, and we look forward to keeping that through the end of this fiscal year. We understand that we must continue to monitor all of our district expenditures, especially those in the area of personnel. As stated, salaries and benefits do account for over 80% of our total operating expenditures. We will continue to diligently review the purchases of goods and services in an effort to continuously improve our general fund balance. In your packet, you have several reports. The first being the Snapshot Analysis. The Snapshot Analysis provides a general overview of Montgomery Public Schools' financial activity. You'll see the general fund revenue compared to compared to budget. The percentage of revenue that's been collected compared to the budget thus far is about 63%. Percentage of expenditures are kind of right in line with where we should be. They're at 56%, and we should be at about 58%, so we're a little bit under. As we stated earlier, we'll continue to diligently monitor all of our purchases. Also on there, you see a comparison of total payroll expenditures compared to last year, April 2019 and April 2020, and you will notice that those expenditures have also decreased. And then you see our general fund balance as of April 2020 is $36.2 million as mentioned, which is about $7 million more than where we were last year. Our required 1 month fund balance is $18.8 million, and so we are well over that at this point, and we're projecting to still be over that by the end of the fiscal year. You also have in your packet a comparative analysis of the monthly and annual revenues and expenditures, and you'll see that that information is presented with an actual percentage, a percentage of actual to budget, and also a percentage of the total revenues to the revenues that were collected compared to total revenues as a percentage, as well as the expenditures that have been expensed compared to total expenditures. So you will see a percentage of that there as well. You also have in your packet statement of cash flow, which looks at the month-by-month expenditures as well as a year-to-date total as to where we are right now, and also compares the percentage of actual to budget. And then we have in the packet the pie charts, cash inflow and outflow, which discloses the year-to-date percentages total in the view of a pie chart. For example, you'll notice that the total revenues collected, for example, local sources is at 29.72%, and so basically the pie chart just takes the actual number, divides that by the total, and puts it in a percentage format in the format of a pie chart. We also have our combined F statements in your package. The combined balance sheet, which portrays the assets, the board's assets, liability, and the fund equity balance as of April 30th. The general fund, which is our primary measurement focus of the board financial reports, has assets totaling the $36.4 million. We have liabilities totaling $113,000, and a residual fund equity of approximately $36.3 million. Of that $36.3 million, our reserved or obligated funds is approximately $5.6 million, so that leaves our unreserved fund balance at $30.7. And then the final report in those F reports is your combined statement of revenues and expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which portrays the board's year-to-date revenues and expenditures for the period October 2019 through April of 2020. The general fund comparison to expenditures for this period indicates revenues exceeded expenditures by $16.7 million as of April 20th. And we're currently, as been previously stated, have the fund equity balance of fund equity of about $36.3 million. And that concludes the presentation of our April financials. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Dr. Moore, I believe the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you. I'm gonna cover a couple of things briefly. The first thing I wanna cover with you has to do with a system-wide virtual possibility for school when we begin to hopefully reopen at some point. First we have to hear from the governor regarding the emergency opening or not opening right now different groups. Then from that, we'll hear from Dr. Mackey, because he will take his guidance from the state superintendent, the governor, regarding any issues that she wants to put out there. And then Dr. Mackey will talk with all of the superintendents across the state about his interpretations of maybe some of the things that we may or may not do as we get ready for the next school year, which we typically have what we call the fall semester. So what I've put together here is not a plan that says this is what we will do. It is a plan in case we have to do something that's more virtual than not. And what I asked each department to do was to come up with how they would go about or what they would do in regard to virtual. And then if it becomes a reality that everything is virtual, then all of these areas that you see under each area are listed, for instance, the Division of Student Services, these are the kinds of things that we would continue to do, whether we're virtual or not. The Curriculum and Instruction Department, these are things that we would continue to do. The Office of Human Resources, the Finance Office, and every department, Communication and Operations. These are the things that we would continue to do under a virtual platform. Of course, we would also do these things as we meet face to face. So I want you to know that the departments are working side by side with each other and with me, so that we're not at the very last minute trying to figure out what it is we have to do or how we're gonna do it at some point. We will continue to work. We met this morning in our staff meeting. We talked about the fact that Dr. Mackey might buy a virtual platform to be used only by public school students. You have to be enrolled in a public school in order to use that virtual platform, and it would be available to all of the school systems in the state. Which means that if you're currently a student, you would be able to use it, or if you're not, then if you decide you want to enroll in a public school in Alabama, including in MPS, then you would also be able to ascertain that virtual platform that is gonna come down the pipe through CARES money that the state would be able to get from that CARES Act. And then each system would get some money also. So one of the things we talked about as a staff is that we would try to do one-to-one for our students. You know, when we had to briefly get out quickly in March, we checked out devices to students that we were able to ascertain through a survey whether or not they had a device, and we were able to check them out. In this case, with one-to-one, we would actually use hopefully some of our CARES money to buy enough devices so that we could check out the device along with the internet device, so that we wouldn't have to worry about whether or not a student had internet at home, or about putting the buses out, which, you know, was a good thing to do, and we partnered with the city in order to do that. But in these devices, if we actually purchase the device and the hotspot to go with the device, we would know for sure that all of our students would not only have, let's say, a laptop, they would also have the internet to go with it, and we wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. And so our teachers, we're also doing now some training with teachers on how to use the virtual platform to actually teach students. And Dr. Cook said that we actually have a lot more people enrolled in this training than we would normally have, because they now see, as teachers, the need to know more about how to deliver instruction through a virtual platform. And so I wanted you all to know that even as we're working through all of this and kind of having to wait on different decisions coming from the feds and from the state and also from our state superintendent, that we are thinking about what it is that we need to do so that potentially we will be ready, no matter which way it goes, we'll be ready to deliver services to our students. So that's what this particular section is about. It is not to say that we definitely right now are gonna do all virtual. We may end up with a blended model again. My concern is that if we bring all the students back together and one student in a grade has been in contact with someone who has the virus, then we would have to quarantine all of those students. Then they have to go home, and there are people there who have to be quarantined, and they may have a brother or a sister who are in middle and high school, and then that impacts up to 150 kids per day. And so now all of a sudden we have multiple numbers of children who have been exposed in one way or another, and at some point we would have to make a decision about what do we do? Do we shut down a wing in a school? Do we shut down the whole school? we'd have to make some decisions based on what's going on at the time. So the virtual model, starting out, has a lot of potential to help us get through that first phase of this. But we don't know yet, and we'll know as soon as we get some more information. Dr. Mackey has said by, I think, June 20th, whenever the superintendents have their state meeting, that he will give us more information at that time. So we're kind of in limbo in a way, but we're still trying to be prepared so that whatever comes down the pike, we'll be able to deal with it. So that's what this little information is about, as far as virtual is concerned.
Question, Dr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
I've talked to some teachers who, plan to work for the system or try to get a job with the system. And then I have others who have retired that said they would be willing to, do part-time, some of the part-time classes, rather than having to hire somebody brand new who is not familiar with the virtual school. The younger people coming out of college right now, I think some of them are a little shy about virtual school and, not having that hands-on with interaction with the students. Have you thought about that?
Well, I think we have to look at, Ms. Bryce, we have to look at the fact that we still are going to be given a certain number of teachers by the State Department based on our student enrollment. And so, because we would be receiving those funds from the state, then we would be obligated to use them using through HR, the certified people, if we can find them. Anybody who works part-time, again, that would be, of course, if you're retired, there's an issue with how much money you can make, but there is the potential to use someone part-time under those circumstances. But we'd have to start out, first of all, with the number of allocations that we get from the State Department per school. And then we could make some, maybe creative decisions about how we would utilize any other monies that might be available. Say some of your federal programs monies and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Okay, now, the last thing that I have has to do with a letter that I am going to submit to Dr. Mackey, based on the show cause letter that we received as a state, as a school system in January of 2017. And so what we did, we went through and we looked at, rather than trying to put it in a paragraph form, we went through and we divided it up into the areas that were identified as deficiency areas, any concerns that were listed in the show cause letter. Then we put in our current status, things that we have accomplished, where we are right now, and then backing that up, as opposed to saying, well, here's where we are showing the evidence to show that we have actually done what we said we would do in these areas. And so I thought that in working with the staff, that these issues, as they were addressed in the show cause letter, it would simplify it not only for us as a board, as a school board for MPS, but also it would simplify it for the state board members so they could actually see a comparison side by side of where we were in 17 and where we are now, and then the documentation that's attached to go with it, so that if they wanted to find any evidence of what we're saying, that there would be evidence to back up those things that we talked about as our current status. And we listed those things at the very end in that last column, so that it would be easy to see and easy to read, and then any backup would be there also attached. And so this is something I want to submit to Dr. Mackey, because I know that he's pursuing the idea of asking for our system to come from under intervention. I believe that we've done enough that we could come from under intervention. We know that there are other things that we need to do, that we want to get better at what we do, but we definitely have made some great strides from 2017 up to this point. And I thought we needed to show the evidence, and so that's what this letter is about. I would submit it to Dr. Mackey so that he would have it as backup when he gets ready to make his proposal that we come from under state intervention.
more questions? Okay, there being no questions, we will move on to the consent agenda. And we'll look for a motion to, vote on that, or we need to recommend it.
Madam President, I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
Let me back up and make the recommendation.
Please.
I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
And we have a, yes,
I do, move approval of the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
I second.
okay, any discussion? I will call by district, Dr. Keith,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Briers,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell? Yes. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Dr. Moore?
Okay, thank you. In item 7, we'll do each one separately. Somebody needs to mute. You did it. Okay, we got it. Here we go. I recommend, first of all, approval of item A, the personnel report, certified personnel.
Madam President, I move that we accept the recommendation from the superintendent of personnel report, certified personnel.
Second.
Any discussion? I will call for the vote by district. Dr. Keith?
Yes.
Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Briers?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell? Ms. Mitchell, are you nodding your head? Okay, Ms. Smith?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That carries. Dr. Moore?
Now we'll move to item B. I recommend approval of the personnel report, certified personnel, addendum number 1.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for personnel, certified personnel.
I second.
Second.
What happened?
Madam President?
I'll come back around, Dr. Coleman,
That was a yes.
Ms. Briers,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and yes here. Did we get Dr. Keith back?
Yeah, I'm on here. I did, yes for me.
Okay, thank you. We lost you there for a minute. Motion carried. Dr. Moore?
All right, now we're going to item C. I recommend approval of the personnel report, classified personnel.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the personnel report, classified personnel.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll call for the vote. Dr. Keith? Dr. Keith? Dr. Coleman? Ms. Briers?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and Dr. Keith. We lose Dr. Keith.
Yes, y'all see me, I'm bobbing my head up and down.
Yes, I couldn't see you though. Now too, thank you. But yes, so that motion passes. Before we adjourn today,
I was just gonna say, before we adjourn, can I go back and make a couple comments about, the school's name changing? Can I make a comment about that?
absolutely.
Okay, mainly because we've got 338 people that are watching us on Facebook Live. And I just want, now there's 338, I want to acknowledge all of the people in the community that have taken time to watch and listen to this meeting live this afternoon. That's probably, well, I know it's more than we've ever had in our, meeting rooms. And the 99% of the comments are about the changing the names of the schools. So I wanted to just inform this community, those that are listening, and others of what I have learned through this process over the last couple of weeks, that it is more than just what the MPS board policies and procedures say. So in 2017, Governor Ivey signed the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act. That was 3 years ago. And with this act, it states that you cannot, it took local power and authority away to rename a building, a school, a street that had been there 40 years or longer. And there's some other things in there about 20 years or longer, but it was mostly directed at things that had been there for 40 years or longer. So the bill was passed, it is now law, and what it did is it kept local authority, like I said, from being able to take, rename things in their community. With this, a committee was formed called the Alabama Memorial Preservation Committee that is made up of 11 people throughout the state, only 2 of which are African American. I wanted to add that. And they were just appointed. They had their first meeting in October of 2019, which was 2 years after the law had already gone into effect. In December of 2019, they named a chair, finally, of that committee, Lee Spruill, who is an attorney in Tuscaloosa. On Friday, I got in touch with Mrs. Spruill because I had been getting a lot of calls, emails, texts, whatever, about the name changing. And so I called Mrs. Spruill, and she said that they did meet in December. She was assigned or elected to be the chair. However, at this point, there are no rules for the committee. There is no application for the waiver. They are hoping to meet in June and maybe get in this application by July 9th. All of this is totally unacceptable to me. It's just one more thing that it makes it another hurdle to be able to rename and take it away from local authority. Secondly, there is a $25,000 fine for every incident. So if the board decided we're gonna just rename Robert E. Lee, it would be $25,000. However, it would also be $5,000 per day that we did not change it back. So I've had people who have said, look, let's just raise the money and go ahead and change it. That's great. We could raise $25,000, $75,000 to change the three schools. However, now we added $5,000 more onto it. So I asked Mrs. Spruill if, what are the chances when we ever get this application, what is the process? And her response was that she didn't know when the committee would be meeting again after July, but it could be October. So she said, we're probably looking at a year before before they would even review our waiver. So my second thought and what I have been, kind of processing today is reaching out to some legislators to see if we can repeal this horrible law and we can get it scratched, because in light of everything that has gone on in the last 2 weeks, the George Floyd movement, is that it is absolutely ridiculous for us to have to sit by and wait for a committee that doesn't even know what they are doing in order to change the schools that are in our district. So I wanted to kind of give the background so that I don't want people in Montgomery to think that our school board is just sitting around and we're not doing anything, because our hands are tied the same way they were tied when we were trying to get a bill in order for the people in Montgomery to be able to vote on a tax reform or property tax. So one more way, and I just wanted everybody to know and understand that that is the whole process. That is what's going on there. So we are really at the mercy of this committee whenever they get together and whenever they put their rules together, which also have to be approved. And whenever this, what the application is also gonna have some attachments to it. It's not gonna be just an application asking for a waiver. It's gonna be bureaucracy at its finest.
Jana, in your research, real quick, is there any way for the public to meet whenever that committee has a meeting, or the meeting's open to the public, is what I'm asking?
I asked the same thing, and she said, if there is a need for y'all to come, we will let you know. So I'm assuming that they do not have to fall under the sunset law. She did not, I asked that same question, Erica. It's very interesting to me. The whole thing has been a real interesting learning curve, because when I talked to Dr. Moore about it last week, I started Googling, had any other Alabama schools changed their names, and this is what popped up. I was aware of the law, but I thought that it had more to do with statutes, like the statutes on, public property or government property and all that. I had no idea that it took the control out of the local community. And it does. So everybody that's listening, this is what's happening, and I think that we need to get some legislators together to repeal this law. I really do.
In the meantime, do understand, we are not sitting by, this board is not sitting by idly, waiting for something to happen. We're gonna be proactive in doing that. And you touched on something else I wanted to mention, Jana, and that is that we do want to acknowledge that there have been a lot of comments and a lot of people watching tonight's meeting. I'm sorry that the setup of our meeting due to COVID-19 doesn't give us an opportunity to address us outside of a comment box. But Dr. Moore, if you will please ask staff to print out the comments and provide a copy to all board members, that would be very helpful. And I know I plan to review the comments as well as every member of the board here.
And you're right, Claire. I was making a comment that we are actively doing what is in our power to do. But the community as a whole, I don't think understood that it was not just our power. That unfortunately, our policies and procedures for MPS board are very specific on how to change it. But now that this law is into effect, we can't do that until this waiver is approved. The waiver, and I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see me, the waiver that does not even exist right now.
Okay, any other comments tonight? If not, our next board meeting is scheduled for July the 14th. And I'm gonna raise my air gavel and adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
Good job.
Right.